and welcome back to Femme Tarot. I'm Natalie, your international psychic medium and energy reader. And today we're going to be looking into another true crime mystery, and this one dates back to 1981, so over 4 decades since that mystery happened, because I do not want to label what happened just yet. And before we start reading the cards and maybe even possibly connect to Natalie Wood, but the mystery has raised many, many questions throughout all these years. Now, let's look at what happened that fateful night. The mysterious death of Hollywood star Natalie Wood on November 29th, 1981, has intrigued fans and the media for over 4 decades. Because on that fateful night, Natalie Wood was aboard the yacht Splendor off the coast of Catalina Island with her husband, Robert Wagner, and actor Christopher Walken, who was a good friend of both of them. And of course, aboard was the captain, Dennis Davern. The group had spent the evening drinking, eating, but tensions were high, according to the captain, particularly between Wagner and Walken. Sometime after 10:45 p.m., Natalie Wood went missing from the yacht. And the next morning, her body was found floating in the water, dressed in a nightgown, socks, and a red down jacket. Initially, her death was ruled an accidental drowning, with theories suggesting that she may have slipped while trying to secure a dinghy that had been banging against the yacht. However, if she had slipped and fallen into the water, wouldn't she be able to scream for help? Wouldn't someone, the captain, her husband, Christopher Walken, wouldn't one of the passengers aboard the yacht hear her screams and run to her rescue? Unless when she slipped and she fell overboard, she was unconscious. So that's also a theory that could also have happened. But if she was unconscious, why was she unconscious? Did she hit her head during her fall? Was she really, really intoxicated? So there was no way for her to kind of start swimming or screaming. Natalie was terrified of the water, and she was just terrified. She was not a great swimmer. And from what I know, she would avoid going to the beach or would avoid going on boats, etc. Today, what we're going to be looking at this case, looking at that fateful night, trying to find out what happened. Hopefully, we can get Natalie to come forward and actually share with us her experience and what happened that night. And hopefully, we'll be able to maybe even solve this mystery. So, without further ado, let's dive in. Okay, so I'm getting Natalie Wood to come forward. So she is a bit weary of coming forward. And this has nothing to do with the fact that she does not want to share what happened. But I feel it's because she is a little bit confused. So this is how she's making me feel, a little bit confused as to my surroundings and what's happening around me. That indicates to me that she was intoxicated that night, not necessarily the moment she fell into the water, but she was intoxicated. She's also showing me the red jacket that she was found in. She's saying that that's not what she was wearing. So I don't know what she means. She's saying she was wearing her nightgown, but she wasn't wearing she doesn't remember putting on a red down jacket. That's what she's telling me. She wasn't even okay. So I'm shown that she wasn't even in her cabin. She wasn't even asleep. She fell asleep on a couch. I see in the living room, in the sitting area. That's what I'm saying. She wasn't in the cabin. Now she's showing me that the captain was in his cabin. He was fast asleep. Christopher Walken too. Robert Wagner, though, listen to this. I can hear her say loud and clear, he's pretending he's sleeping. He's acting as if he's sleeping, which is interesting. So, and she's actually now she's showing me like a short video. So she's showing me that she's sneaking out, or not sneaking. She doesn't want him n- to notice that she's going, but I think it was because she thought he was fast asleep. She didn't want to wake him, so she was as careful as possible of when she left the cabin to not wake him. But now, she's saying at the time she thought that he was fast asleep, but now she knows that he wasn't, that he was pretending to be asleep because she went to her cabin. So uh, before Christopher Walken and Robert Wagner did, she's saying they were arguing. It got really, really ugly. It got really, really bad. They exchanged really mean words. And so at some point, she just couldn't take it anymore. She was also very intoxicated. So she left. She left. I mean, she went to her cabin. Now, I'm asking her what was the argument about, what was the fight about, and she's saying me, I'm at fault, I'm to blame, me. And she's a bit distressed. Um, I'm asking her why? What did you do? So Robert Wagner apparently, I had no idea. We all know that he was extremely good looking when he was young. He was a heartthrob. Robert Wagner was it back in his time. But she's saying that he was extremely jealous of her. He was very suspicious of her, controlling too. That's what I'm hearing. He was very controlling. And then she adds, even though he always had girls and side pieces and mistresses, like he wasn't monogamous, he wasn't faithful to Natalie. She says the first 3 years he was, but after that he was just, yeah, not at all. So I'm asking her if the fight, because she's not coming out and saying it, so I'm asking her, was he suspicious of Natalie and Christopher? Because Christopher was a close friend of theirs, and he was always around them at the time. Like there were paparazzi shots, and there were images and photos of them, and there it was always the three of them together, right? So I'm asking her, was there anything going on there? It could have been also a menage a trois. I don't know. You never know in Hollywood. Anything is possible. She's actually she's giggling. And she's like, no, it wasn't a menage a trois, but Christopher Walken was very much in love with Natalie, and Robert Wagner knew that. Or I'm not sure if he knew that because Christopher told him, or he knew that because he intuitively could pick up, the signs and the body language, and he saw something. So there was always that, but she's Natalie's saying that he was a gentleman, so he never really came on to her. He never did anything disrespectful to her, but he did not hide the fact that he had feelings for her, and she was very well aware of it. And she was she was put in a very difficult position because she was trying to do not give him false hope or mixed signals or create any more jealousy to her husband, Robert Wagner, who was really keeping an eye on them, and he was being like a hawk. This is what she's saying. So my next question to her is, so why would you, if you know like your friend or your best friend's got feelings for your wife, why invite him over to the boat? Especially as there was no one else there. There was the captain, And it was just the 3 of them. And she's saying, it was done on purpose. He wanted to confront Christopher Walken. Also, she's telling me that Christopher Walken as well is not a big fan of water. He feels uncomfortable around water or in the sea. So it f- it it makes me feel that Robert Wagner wanted to have them, both of them, so his wife and his friend, and all 3 of them be on a yacht when he knows that they both are afraid of the water and the sea, and generally they're not comfortable on boats. So, was it a confrontation? What was it? I'm asking. And she's saying, yeah, it was pretty much sort of confronting and testing, and also maybe in a way proving to himself, Robert Wagner's proving to himself that they indeed were having an affair, even though they weren't. Natalie says, I have a great respect for Christopher. Um, I have I was always fond of him, so I've always cared for him, but not in that way. He says there were many rumors at the time, many people talking, and they just there are a lot of rumors that possibly she had an affair with him, et cetera, et cetera. She's like, all that is not true. I'm just going back and asking her now. So the argument at the table was because of her, or was because of Christopher's feelings towards her. And she's like, yes, but something had happened previously, a week or so before they went on the boat. There was an incident, and it had nothing to do with Natalie, she says. So it wasn't involving her, which really, really aggravated and annoyed Robert Wagner's. So for him, uh, it was really pretty much just, the straw that broke the camel's back, and he just wanted to confront Christopher and just basically make him feel. I feel like Robert Wagner helped Christopher Walken's career a lot. So maybe his connections and his name was what helped Christopher Walken get the jobs and the roles that he was getting at the time, because he started off as a dancer and then he went into acting. So he fell into acting by accident almost. He was just this was him being Robert Wagner being very petty and showing him who who has the power, because he felt that Christopher should have this blind loyalty towards Robert Wagner and just Robert Wagner alone. And the fact that Christopher just happened to have feelings for his wife, even though he was a gentleman, according to Natalie, he still, that really annoyed Robert. And also, something else that happened, she said previously that she's not sure if she wants to disclose it, because Robert is Christopher and Robert are still with us. So she's saying that she doesn't think this is fair, or this is any way her place to disclose what the argument was about. But I'll jump in and say, sorry, Natalie, but I will say that it sounds like they had a major fight and falling out that week before, due to something that involves shady stuff. Okay, that's all I can say, because I can almost see what happened. And when I mean almost, like, I can see it, but I can't hear the conversation. So I'm being blocked from that. But I'm getting that this had to do with something illegal or shady. Maybe, I don't know. I'm not gonna speculate here, and Natalie is not gonna come out and tell us. So I respect that. So there was all that tension mounting between them. So as soon as things started getting really, really heated, she said she left the table. She retreated to her cabin because she did not want to hear the back and forth and the screaming. She had a massive headache. She fell asleep. So she doesn't remember anything after that. She does know what happened, but she doesn't remember the details. And I'm asking her, so before she's even ready to share with us what happened, I'm asking her if someone did this to her, if this was intentional, if someone was responsible for her unaliving. And she said she's very reluctant. So, and when I see souls that are reluctant to answer me when I ask them direct questions like that, it's usually because they they don't want to affirm it, because they are, especially because Robert Wagner and Christopher Walken are still with us. Okay, they haven't transitioned to the spirit world, and it makes it harder for them to kind of like reveal any tragedy that has happened to them, because it's the contract. So Robert Wagner's and Christopher Walken's contracts haven't ended yet, because they're still here. It's very different when they're on the other side. A lot of times souls will just come in and admit what they've done. If they've done like a bad deed or something terrible, they will admit it themselves. For instance, JFK, when I did the reading about the JFK assassination, Oswald came forward, right? And he admitted, but he also revealed other things that we didn't know. And if you haven't watched that video, I will link it up there, or maybe up there, and you can watch it after this. She's reluctant to answer the question if someone responsible for this. And I'm leaving it I'm not saying if anyone unalived her. I have to be careful how I form, although I'm using words freely now, and I do see that YouTube is limiting my views, but what can you do? You can't beat that beast called algorithm. Anyways, I digress. So I'm not asking her directly, because I don't want to get the yes or no answer. I want her to tell us what happened in her own words. So, was anyone responsible? She's very reluctant, but that's a yes, because she's nodding. So that's a yes. Someone's responsible. Now, whether it's that person was directly responsible or indirectly responsible, she's saying both. She answered that question. She said both, indirectly and directly. She was saying that she was intoxicated, but she had also taken antidepressants and she had taken Quaaludes. So that mixture was horrible. She was not herself. She said she didn't feel at all connected to her body or her mind or her surroundings. She was she was out there. She wasn't really in touch with her surroundings. And that includes the moment or the time that she woke up. She woke up, so she was feeling slightly better, but she wasn't her headache was uh seemed to be milder now, but she was still out of it, sort of. Okay, when she woke up, she said she wanted to get a glass of water. So the reason why she got up was she needed to use the restroom and she needed to get a glass of water. She was really, really thirsty. So she got out of her cabin, uh, and she got a glass of water, and then she fell asleep on the sofa in that seating out. And I do see there's like an open plan kitchen, and then right next to that open, like a little mini kitchenette, like open plan, though it's not like a separate cabin or separate room. And then you can see there's a couch, and there's a dining table next to it as well. She had her water, and then she fell asleep on that couch, because she was still sort of loopy. That's what she's saying. And that's when now she's showing me, like, I'm literally Natalie, and I can see things from her perspective, from her eyes, both Natalie's. And I do see a male hand waking her up or sort of, shaking her. I don't know if this is to wake her up or to check if she's okay, if she's breathing, which is a bit weird, but it feels like they were checking on them. And this was not the captain. This was a very hairy arm. And she's saying Robert had hairy arms. So there you go. That was her way of saying that was Robert. That was Robert. And Robert is not happy. It was an aggressive nudge or shake. So he's angry. Maybe that's why she said he pretended to be asleep, because he knew that she had left the cabin, she had left the bed. Oh, okay, that makes sense. All right. So woke her up. She's loopy. She's out of it. She's not great. And she tells him so. She says that I told him I need more water. Like I'm really thirsty right now. This is how she's making me feel. Like I really feel like my mouth is dry and then I need to drink like a ton of water. I don't know what came up when I wasn't there, but Robert Wagner was angry. And she's now trying to stand up or just sit up. And he's literally just pulling her, he's grabbing her, and he's trying to get her to stand up because he wants her to be on his eye level. That's what she's saying. And he's rough. He's very rough in his handling of her. So he's like grabbing her, and it's just maybe that explains the bruises. I don't know yet. We'll find out. Hold on. Let's see. She's kind of like resisting, but not really. And she admits that she said something to me. She says that sometimes she would have a foul mouth, something that probably most people didn't were unaware or didn't know about Natalie Wood. She said that she had a foul mouth. She could really give it back, you know? And she did. And she said something which she says that she does not want to repeat. And maybe it's best because I do not want to say it and get demonetized or anything like that, or get flagged on YouTube. You never know. But she says that it was mean and it was hurtful, and she hit him where it hurts, and he lost it. He lost it. I I see it, and it's very unfortunate. It makes me feel terrible, but he slapped her. Now, I was gonna ask, but now she's very open about what's happening or what happened, because I was like wondering, where's Christopher Walken? Where is the captain? Where is everybody? And she says Christopher came out of his cabin. The captain didn't, but I'm made to feel, and this is from my guides, that he could hear everything. He was awoken by the kerfuffle. He was he heard the fight, maybe even the slap for sure, she says. And Christopher came out and tried to protect her. And that didn't go down well at all. What she did, she said, was she ran. She tried to run. Again, remember, she was loopy. She was dizzy. She was out of it. She ran out to the outer deck of the yacht. And in order to make them stop from arguing, she threatened to throw herself off the boat if they didn't stop the arguing, but no one's listening. She would say, "I would stop it, stop it, stop it. I'm going to throw myself off the boat." But she slipped. That's true. That part of the story, she says, is true. She did slip. And not just that, she slipped, she hit the dinghy. And then from the dinghy, she kind of like bounced in. And when she hit the dinghy, because again, don't forget, she was intoxicated. She had taken Quaaludes. There was just a lot in her system. She was very fragile at the moment. She said she hit herself really badly. She lost consciousness. She fell in the water and she drowned. That's what happened. It took them a while before they noticed that she was gone completely, that she wasn't on the boat. But the captain heard the splash, the thump. He came out of his cabin and he told them, "Where's Natalie? Where is she?" They started looking around and they found her. The rest, she says, is history. What does she mean by that? She said, the captain and Christopher and Robert all agreed and they made a pact. And of course, they were very well remunerated. Robert made sure that they were financially good to never ever discuss or be honest about what happened. So, because there were some drugs on board, and it would have gotten very, very, very complicated, would have ruined their careers, especially Robert Wagner, who was already had a very he was, he was an A-list, he was a star at the time and still is in some ways. So, and this was just a cover up. So they all decided and agreed to never talk of this again. They agreed on the story of what they would tell the authorities. And Christopher and Robert Wagner, from what Natalie's saying, I don't know, I need to check. But she says that they never, their friendship never went back to what it was. They just basically stopped talking to each other and hanging out and just being friends ever since. But it's a secret that they all have kept. I think the captain has, from what Natalie's telling me, the captain is deceased. He's no longer with us. But Robert and Christopher are living with us for 40 something years with a secret. And I'm going back to what she said at the beginning of this reading. She said they were they were responsible, but not responsible. Meaning no one pushed her off the boat. No one harmed her to the point of unaliving her. But the actions, the words, and everything that happened that night led to her demise, led to her unaliving. Because her desperation to break up the fight and bring peace, at least for that night, because she's saying they were meant to head back the next day, the next morning, back to port, back home. So, and her desperation and her loopiness and her having taken all the stuff that she had taken is what led to her demise. So it's not Robert's fault per se, but it is. I'm giving her the room and the time and the space to maybe add anything else to that. Okay. So she's saying that secret was kept among the three of them. So they made this pact. But she said her family and her very, very close loved ones suspected and knew that in some way this wasn't an accident. Because she says that Robert, they didn't like him because they had seen him being very controlling to her, not very respectful. Everyone knew that he was cheating and he was running around with other women. So, and she's also saying that they when that happened, so if she hadn't crossed over, if that hadn't happened that day, she said she had already spoken to two lawyers. I'm seeing a female and a male lawyer about divorcing him. So there was that. So she was already out of that marriage. She was gone. She didn't want to be, but she said she was taking step by step. She had a plan on how to exit this relationship, because there were points where she was fearful of Robert Wagner because he also had a temper too. And she said she never got to that. Like, she never got to the divorce. She never got to get her freedom and her happiness, because that was the night even that she left the earth plane. She's thanking me for doing this and for putting this out there. She's apologizing to everyone watching. She's like, I'm really sorry. I can't give you more information at this point. There's so much I want to share with you, not just about what happened that night, but I guess it has to do about her marriage and her life. She says her life as well, because there's a lot of misinformation and a lot of these biographies and a lot of the things that were written about stars at the time. At that time, she says, they were very fabricated. They were this was marketing, it was promotion. It was promotion. But she said she would love to do this again at some point. She would love to come forward and maybe answer different questions, or for people to get to know her differently. She's very sweet, because she's like that. Oh, I'm not gonna share this because people are gonna think that I'm just, I don't know. I'm making things up, but she's very sweet. She's like, you carry our name very, very well, and you're so beautiful and all that. She's just paying me all these compliments, and I really appreciate that. But she's gorgeous. So I will let Natalie go. That was it for today. I hope you enjoyed this reading. Please don't forget to subscribe to this channel, like this video, do comment down below your thoughts, or let me know what other reading or what other celebrity you want me to read on. And I'll be seeing you very soon. Till next time, bye.